Hi students. In this video I want to talk about the subtle body. I want to talk about the gross body and the subtle body. I want to talk about the yogic view of the body, and I want you to understand that that view of the body is a tool for practice. It's useful and interesting information to explore what's called the Koshas system. This system of different vibrational sheaths or energetic presences that exist simultaneously with our physical body, that are part of our larger incarnational matrix, how we came to be in this world. It's interesting to know all this stuff, but it's also a very practical tool for yoga practices and for understanding the progress in our practice. So you have that reading from the Taittiriya Upanishad, and the section I gave you is the one which first introduces to us historically some idea of the subtle body, of the energetic bodies, which we call Koshas. Koshas is just a term for body in Sanskrit. This text first introduces that around 5 centuries before the Common Era, before the birth of Christ. What happens in the later tradition, and I'll talk about this in another video, is that the meditative investigations advance throughout history, and we get stronger and stronger and clearer and fuller articulations of the larger anatomy of the subtle body, of the energetic body, of the manifestations of incarnation, which are not merely our gross physical body. Just like electricity is more subtle than wood, even in our world of physics, we confess of more subtle elements. Air is more subtle than earth. When we start to get to the most subtle world of the energetics of human manifestation, we talk about different subtle manifestations of the body. So if you can think in those terms, it's not that outlandish. You might think it's outlandish because you're a materialist and you only believe in what has been anchored down by modern science. I have faith that the manifestations of life force, which are evident everywhere in the biosphere, will someday be plotted and measured just like the physical energies that we have in the electromagnetic spectrum and in matter, and the periodic table of elements are measured today. But that day is yet to come, and now what we have to go on is the testament of a massive tradition of India where these things have been cataloged, and we have our own intuitions which help us to explore these realities, the potential of these realities. It's still experimental reality. It's not something that I'm asking you to take on faith, asking you to take on theoretically, hypothetically, and then test and see if it's true in your own experience, but not to believe without reflection or without investigation through experience. So that's a little bit of a primer. But to get to kind of the meat of the matter, we want to talk about the 5 koshas. And we can think about them sort of like we think about the body itself. At the inner part of my body, I have bone, which is the densest structure. And then I have muscle, which is bone actually goes into connective tissue, fascia. We can say that's a second structure. It's kind of dense. It's definitely denser than muscle. And then we have muscle, which is softer. It's more blood-filled. It utilizes more motion. And then I go to the skin. Yeah. And then maybe we might even talk about hair. Hair is kind of a covering of the body. And as I move through those successive densities, those successive structures in the anatomy, it gets less and less dense, right? Skin is more pliant and movable than muscle, only a little bit more so. And muscle is definitely more pliant and fluid than connective tissue, tendon, and other fascia, ligament. And that is definitely more pliant than bone. Bone is stiffer. It's sort of like a metallic structure inside the body. It's very stiff. Though it also has its flexible capacities. So just like the same thing happens in the Koshas system, and I realize I know I'm going to have 2 videos to explain this because I'm about halfway through. The Koshas system moves from the gross body, which we call the Annamaya Kosha. We call it the food body. And the reason we use the word food is because food is what feeds this body. It's the primary thing that feeds this body and maintains its density, its manifestation as the food body, as the Annamaya Kosha. The second kosha, the second degree of subtle energy, and at this level we jump right into the subtle body, is the Pranamaya Kosha. And you might have recalled from other lectures or readings that prana means life force. So this is the kosha, which is the expression of energy. It is not the it does not suggest a connection to the quality of earth. It suggests a connection to the quality of air. Yeah. So air is a lighter element, and in the Pranamaya Kosha, we use air to feed it. Just like the Annamaya Kosha is fed by Anna, food, the Pranamaya Kosha is fed by Prana, air. It's fed by the energy that is in air and has an air-like quality, the life force. And so I'll talk a little bit more later about how that mediates our relationship to the Pranamaya Kosha. The next kosha is the Manamaya Kosha, and it is the kosha of mind. And we can recognize that quality in people that we meet. Do they have a strong Manamaya Kosha? Do they have a strong mental structure? Do they have a strong intellect? Is it clear? Is it fluid? Is it well informed? Just like Pranamaya Kosha, do they have a lot of energy in their body? Just like Annamaya Kosha, do they have a strong body, a body that's strong at the level of density, like Arnold Schwarzenegger? So we have Annamaya Kosha, food body, Pranamaya Kosha, energy body. We have the Manamaya Kosha. Manas is the mind, which is formed by our intellect, our thoughts of ideas, which forms a certain energetic sheath of a certain density. And then the next kosha is the Vijnanamaya Kosha. And the Vijnanamaya Kosha is similar to the Manamaya Kosha because jnana means knowledge. Vi is a intensifier, which means increased or vast or deeper. And so the Vijnanamaya Kosha is higher mind, which we relate to will, our capacity to choose, our capacity to discern. It's a more active quality than mind, because mind mainly processes, put things in order, but Vijnanamaya Kosha chooses. So we know that there are people of tremendous will. I mean, we can think about our current president. Despite everything, Trump has become president of the United States, and he's such a creature of will. Many great leaders are creatures of will. Their will body, their Vijnanamaya Kosha, is extremely strong and developed. Maybe it's more or less complex, just like the physical body. It has, all these bodies have different modalities in which we can interpret them. Flexibility, strength, facility. The same thing with the will body. It is, at its grossest level, simply stronger or weaker, more forceful or less forceful. We cultivate the will body, the Vijnanamaya Kosha, just like we cultivate the food body, and the Vijnanamaya Kosha feeds on will. Yeah, it expresses itself through intention. And then the last body, Anandamaya Kosha. And the Anandamaya Kosha, call it the bliss body or the love body. It is manifested by our capacity to love, to embrace, to accept, to be compassionate. And it, of course, because it is the most subtle, it is the most powerful. Kind of reverses our notion around these things in the physical world a little bit. But think again at the subatomic level, those things that are smallest are most powerful. The atom bomb comes from exploding just a tiny, teeny atom. Same thing here. The subtlety of the Anandamaya Kosha gives it great power. And of course, those people who love the most are the most powerful. Those are the people that we remember most in history. Think about Jesus Christ, Mohandas Gandhi, or Muhammad, or any of the great prophets, the Buddha. Their historical resonance remains with us most greatly because their Anandamaya Kosha was so well developed. I'm out of time. I'll continue this in the next video. Thank you for listening.